you are, no matter how talented the team, the one thing that can shatter your entire season is turning the ball over. Quarterbacks of destiny have carried their teams into the playoffs, only to have everything ruined with one single pass. Josh Allen started his career with erratic interceptions, corralled those issues, had them tick up again last year, but then went Burt Macklin in the playoffs until he lost the thriller in Kansas City. The encore was supposed to be a stroll into the Super Bowl, but his interceptions have jumped back up and he's exhibited some questionable play. He's still dominant, the Bills are still good, but in the 10 weeks since their bye, he's thrown 10 interceptions, and then against the Dolphins in the wild card threw 2 more. This week I charted each of those interceptions to see if there are easily definable problems, and there are. But before we dive into what I found, I want to thank this week's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. They are a fantasy football app that is honestly my favorite way to play fantasy. Every one of their games are awesome, but what I've especially loved playing this year is their pick'em games where you select 2 to 5 players and bet their over-under stat for that game. You pick 5 and win, that's 20 times your entry in just one night. You can choose any game as long as it's on the slate. To get the Purdy Hive off my back a bit, I'll take his over. BCB's my guy. Then I'll take a couple of unders with Chase against the Bills. Really anything you want to do, you can pick it, and if you put in 5 picks to 20x your money, with just $50, you can win $1,000. As long as you choose any player in the slate, you can play whatever and whoever you want. It's easy, it's simple, you can win a lot of money. Use my promo code Rollins to get a match deposit of up to $100. So you put in 100, it instantly turns into 200, that's promo code Rollins. When I charted Allen's 12 interceptions in the last 11 weeks, I looked at several factors. Were they winning? By how much? Where on the field? Was he in or outside the pocket? Was it his fault? And ultimately, why did it happen? I found the Bills are usually up, and up big. They're usually in the red zone. He's inside the pocket, but he's pushing the ball when he shouldn't be. 9 of the 12 came when they were winning or tied, 6 of them when they were winning by 2 scores or more. 5 of 12 were inside the red zone, half were inside the pocket, 9 were his fault, and a whopping 5 out of 12 was because he was too aggressive, which is ultimately the theme of this episode. In our first example, they aren't winning, actually are down 3, but it's overtime and they need a touchdown to win. On just 2nd and 10 in the red zone, the Vikings are playing quarters with 4 deep defenders, and the Bills have what's typically a quarters beater in Mills, which isolates the strong safety. If the safety hangs back for the post, the dig comes wide open underneath them, and if the safety nails down on the dig, yes, the post has Patrick Peterson on him, but in quarters, Peterson is leveraged outside to funnel the post inside, which is why typically Mills is so effective. When Allen sees a safety drive, his read takes him to the post, but everything is so condensed, there's the opposite of a window, the ball gets picked off, and the game is over. While he is overly aggressive here, I do want to point out an issue with the design of this play. The concept is obviously a good one against this coverage, but the splits of the receivers are reduced way too far inside. Quentin Morris and Gabe Davis are starting way too close together, so the safety and corner aren't put in enough conflict since everything is so tight. If Davis was further outside, Peterson would have to match his split, which would create more of a window for when the post comes open. But still, with that said, just because the safety bites does not mean the throw should be made. I mean, this is damn near triple coverage with the other safety also in the picture, and look at the placement on this throw. Allen obviously sees the safety bite, but knows he doesn't have a lot of space. So typically Mills is thrown right behind the safety's ear, but because he's so close due to the splits, Allen has to almost throw this back shoulder to get it away from him, and Pat P easily intercepts it. Too often this year, he's playing with hesitation in his game, where he's unsure of what he's looking at and is struggling to play within timing. Any sort of hit you take in the red zone is bad news, and really throughout the season, he just hasn't looked comfortable. It's one thing if this is 3rd and 10 and you literally have to jam it in there, but on 2nd and 10, check it down, scramble outside the pocket, just live another day. But, the thing is, there's a fine line between a quarterback sitting in the pocket, then scrambling, and a quarterback who scrambles too quickly after racing through his reads. And we've seen Allen walk that line in the past, but this year he stepped over it again and again. Here on 3rd and 9, they're winning 27-10, and they have this drive dagger concept to the bottom with what looks like an alert fade that Khalil Shakir turns into a deep stop due to the coverage. An alert is when Allen doesn't look at the route unless he likes the matchup, then he'll ignore the rest of these guys. And since the Packers are playing this cover 3 fire zone, which just means cover 3 with an extra blitzer, because Shakir is running what is originally a fade is why Allen doesn't look at him. Drive dagger is read 1, 2, 3, so when they're not open, Allen begins to run. Instead of fully scanning, sitting in the clean pocket, and seeing Shakir break off his route, he takes off to run, forces the ball into the tightest window, and yikes. The issue here is that he doesn't sit in this clean pocket, but instead drops his eyes so he can't scan all his options. 7 of his 12 interceptions came when there was no pressure, and this pocket is as clean as it gets. Quarterbacks limit their ability to see down the field when they break the pocket. For example, the wide open Shakir, even if Allen didn't expect it, and up 17 points, he forces it again. A whopping 11 of the 12 picks came when he held the ball longer than 2.5 seconds. So later in the down, the longer he holds the ball, the more unnecessarily aggressive he becomes. On 2nd and 19 nearing the red zone, the Bears are playing cover 3 with their safety rotating down. The Bills have a trips nub look, which means they have 3 receivers to the bottom all on one side, and then a tight end attached, and a running back next to Allen. Typically, when offenses use these nub formations, defenses like to man lock the backside to push more coverage to the trip side since wide receivers are more dangerous. With the Bills thinking that's what the Bears are doing, they try to isolate the will linebacker who needs to take the 3 receiver vertical since there's nobody to carry him deep. They try to sit Diggs down underneath so Isaiah McKenzie can go over the top, but when it turns out the Bears are playing typical cover 3 without manning the backside, now there's a cornerback over the top of the will. Instead of Allen recognizing the risk of aggressively attacking what's not even really a window at all, he does what he's been doing all year and forces it in. Watching him throughout this season, he just looks unsettled. Again, he has this hitch, showing he's not really sure what he's looking at. Hitches will throw off your timing and footwork, and here he hitches out a surprise that the corner is dropping deep. Instead of throwing it out in front, he's now going to try and throw it over his head, but even so, look at the placement on this ball. Even if 6 wasn't dropping deep at all, this thing is getting picked by the other defender anyway. All this uncomfortableness has led to him not playing on time. The more out of whack his footwork gets, the more challenging it is to throw to the correct read on time. If you hold the ball longer and hitch and hitch and hitch, the point on the field where your receiver is supposed to be targeted isn't targeted on time as often, making it harder to consistently execute the call. All year, his feet and rhythm have been out of sync, and instead of seeing that slow improvement in progression riding into the playoffs, we're seeing a guy who still struggled against the Dolphins. Winning 17-3 on 1st and 10, the Bills are running a blazer concept, which is a 3-level stretch on the defense. The pylon is the first read, the sail second, and the flat third, and the idea behind the concept is the pylon takes the corner deep to force the curl flat defender to choose between 2 receivers. When Allen sees the corner getting run off and the curl flat sitting underneath for Morris, he's rearing up ready to throw the sail, but sees the Dolphins have added a wrinkle. Cutting Knox's route with your only deep safety does solve the problem of Eric Rowe having to guard 2 receivers, but it's pretty risky since the middle of the field is wide open with nobody deep. Allen double clutches because he's about to throw to Knox, but then late in the down he throws the bomb, completely misfires, and again he's overly aggressive when he simply doesn't need to be. Forcing the ball into tight windows allowed the Dolphins to hang around and almost overtake him despite starting a 3rd-string quarterback. But at the same time, a major part of the Bills' offense is Allen attempting these incredible plays. A ton of their explosive offense comes from Josh pushing balls into tighter windows deep down the field, and a ton of those also come from him scrambling around and making crazy throws or running the ball. This style of quarterback play makes it extremely hard to be consistent, efficient, and effective at all times, and I think we've seen the negative side of that come out this year. The Bills do have one of their shoddier offensive lines that we've seen in recent memory, so that plays a role in Allen's processor getting sped up a bit. Still, he's turning the ball over way too much due to his aggressive nature. The solution, especially heading into the divisional round against the Bengals, is more situational awareness. There are times when Allen needs to push to make these plays and carry the offense, but when they're winning by multiple scores, when it's first or second down, when they're in the red zone, this is just not the time to be attempting these honestly insane plays. Last year, we saw him turn it around in the playoffs, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in just 2 games. And after what's hopefully just a blip against the Dolphins, maybe he can come back and do the same. He's still very effective, just right now a little too careless with the football. So if he can get back to playoff Josh Allen of just 1 year ago, the monstrosity, the killer, he can turn that controlled aggression into a Super Bowl.